All right, so like Adam said, I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about how really the right technology can really help you in your practice. And really kind of a key word that I'm going to use multiple times throughout this talk is efficiency. And because I think that's just a really, really important word for us to really think about and to really strive for. Because the more efficient we can be, the better care we can take of our patients, the more profitable our practices can be, the happier our patients will be, just really the better everything will be when we can be more efficient. So I'm all about finding places where I can squeeze out a little bit more efficiency in what I do. And so I'll really point some of that out to you this evening. So we'll obviously a real quick introduction. I want to talk a little bit about optimizing your workflow with integrated technologies. So using technologies to do more than one thing, and how much time that can really save you, and more importantly, how much information it can give you. Talk about enhancing the patient experience with multimodal screening, and really talk about some of the key benefits that I've seen through elevating my practice with new technologies. You know, I've been lucky that through the years as I've practiced, I've always been one to want and be able to adopt new technologies fairly early on. And, you know, sometimes you do that and you look back and say, well, gosh, why did I do that? And other times you look back and say, well, why did I not do that sooner? And really what I'm going to be talking about tonight falls into that second category. When I think about some of the automated systems that I'm now using, I really look and ask myself, why didn't I integrate some of this sooner into my practice? Just because of the benefits that I've really, really seen from it. So a little bit about me. So there you have a picture that, you know, that's a glamour shot. I don't really look that good. So I've been in practice for a little bit over 20 years, and I've been in a number of different practice settings. As Adam mentioned, my current practice setting is an ODMD practice, 3 offices, 11 doctors, pretty busy practice. And so really being able to be efficient in what we do is really super, super important to us on a daily basis. Whether it's an OD in the practice or an MD, still we have the same goals to take the best care of our patients and to see all the patients that we need to. You know, like you, it's not so easy to hire staff these days. And so everything we do, we need to do it in a way that makes it easier for us to be able to see the patients that we need to be able to see. So my general focus is on primary care patients, and really what that means to me is I see all kinds of different patients. I'd say about half my day every day is made up of routine exams, many of which come from vision insurances, and the other half of my day is medical eye care, taking care of patients with anything from dry eye to other cornea problems to AMD, diabetes, which, by the way, when you're taking care of all those patients, they still need the general vision care as well. We still need to make sure that we're doing refractions, that they're seeing well, and we're doing really full scope optometry. So I guess that'd probably be a better way to describe what I do instead of just primary care, full scope optometry. Okay, so a little bit of my background. Like I said, so I'm in the ODMD practice, and we're really a pretty busy practice. On the average half day, I'll see between 15 and 20 patients, either whether that's in the morning or in the afternoon clinic session. And so obviously that doesn't leave a whole lot of time for every patient. So we need to use the time the best that we can and give our patients the best experience that we can. And a big place where I think a lot of us can kind of get bogged down in time and words is refraction. Refraction is a part of the exam where sometimes it can be quite quick and simple, and other times it can turn out to be quite lengthy and quite frustrating. And so I'm all about finding ways to make it less frustrating, not just for me, but for my patients. And again, this brings in the word efficiency, where it's so important to be efficient in your refractions. You know, and I think I need to point out that let's not mistake the word efficiency for speed. And I tell my patients that all the time when we're done with an exam, you know, and they don't have to sit around and wait. Sometimes they're surprised that things didn't take longer. And I'll tell my patients that, you know, I'd like to think of us as being very efficient. And sometimes they'll say, no, that was really fast. And I correct them. I say, no, there's a difference between doing things fast or quickly and doing them efficiently. Efficiently, to me, implies that you're doing them not just quickly, but also with great quality. Whereas if all you're striving for is speed, there may not be enough emphasis on the quality that you're providing. You know, one of the things that we do is we enable our techs to do quite a bit in our practice, whether it's obviously using the autorefractor or even just using the phoropter and refracting our patients for us to double check, of course. But it's really nice to have instruments that allow our patients to do this, especially if you have a great autorefraction that makes it so much easier for them to do a refraction. It really, really helps things go quite a bit more smoothly. So because of that, I think that autorefractor data is really critical to our success. That if we were using autorefractors that weren't very accurate, well, then there wouldn't really be a very good reason to use them. And I'll show you a little bit about the autorefractor that we use in the office, and I can't speak highly enough of it, just in how accurate it is and how rarely it's more than maybe a quarter off, maybe a half diopter occasionally, but it's so close. Sometimes I wonder, do I really need to do a refraction? The answer is yes. Can't just rely, I don't think, on the autorefraction. I need some subjective input from the patients, but having a really accurate autorefractor has proven to be so, so very important. And because of that, I'm convinced I spend less time refracting my patients, which allows me more time to just talk with them, review the findings, their pathology, educating them, or just talking about their glasses. And so what happens is I'm spending the same amount of time or less with my patients, but their perception is that I'm spending more because it's more face-to-face time and less time with them behind a phoropter. So even if it doesn't save time, it allows me to use my time in a way that my patients appreciate more. And you know, I think that the other thing to point out is that it did take a little while to adapt to using a digital phoropter, but I would tell you it's been quite rewarding, and it's actually been fun. You know, if you got an invitation to this evening, you saw the picture in it, and we'll show that again here of me sitting with basically my feet propped up, and I do kind of do that. And so instead of having to be hunched over the phoropter, I'm kind of sitting back, relaxed. Sometimes I'll pull a drawer out, prop my feet up, and refract using a tablet. It's great. And so I love doing refractions from a tablet, not having to actually touch the physical phoropter. So let's talk about optimizing your workflow with integrated technology. So what do I mean by integrated technology? So what you see on the left-hand side there are 4 different, I'll call them instruments. So on the top left, you see it's a multimodal instrument. So it's autorefractor, Ks, topography, NCT, pachymetry, all sorts of other measurements that then integrates into the digital phoropter that is integrated with the tablet that you see there that controls the phoropter, that also receives information from the digital autolensometer that we see up there as well. So all these are integrated. So they all talk to each other. So my tablet knows what the autorefractor said, and it knows what the lensometer said, and it can put either of those readings or even something else into the phoropter. So everything is tied together. It's really a great thing. And so here you see those instruments kind of laid out a little bit differently, showing you kind of the workflow. I do currently use all of these in my office. I know my camera is not on right now on my computer, but I'm sitting in an exam room where I'm looking at the VX65, the digital phoropter, and right in front of me is my tablet from which I control that. And I know that just down the hallway is the autorefractor and the VX130 autorefractor. So my technician runs the VX40 lensometer, and really it's not fair to call it a lensometer. I think a better name for it really is a lens analyzer, because it does more than just tell us the power of the lens. It gives us a power profile essentially and shows us what the channel in a progressive looks like. It measures prism. It's really fantastic, and it's great to press a button and then you know everything about the lenses in somebody's pair of glasses. And so it makes it so anyone in your office can be doing the lensometry. And you know, I know there's offices that have this sitting up at the front desk, that when someone walks in while they're checking in, the front desk person will ask for their pair of glasses, put it on the lens analyzer and analyze them right then and there. And that's pretty impressive to the patient. That's a great way to start the exam, to really impress people with the technology you have available. So then the next, or actually what's done sequentially, or that's done at the same time as the lens analysis, if it's done by a technician, is the VX130 or VX120 anterior segment analyzer. So it's more than just an autorefractor. Yes, it does autorefract, and it gives Ks and topography and pachymetry that I mentioned before, but I'll show you some other aspects of the anterior segment that it analyzes as well. It gives an opacity map as far as cataracts. It just gives just a wealth of information. And then in the exam room, I'm using the VX65. That's the digital phoropter that's controlled by a tablet. And I'll give you closer up views of all these. That just makes it so easy to do refraction. So it's quite efficient. And I have to tell you, patients are impressed by it every day. Patients really love it. And really every day that when I'm using it, a patient will say something to me about it, which for me makes it really even that much more fun. So data integration, how does it work? So data uploads directly from the VX40, so the lens analyzer, and the VX130, that's the anterior segment analyzer, straight into EHR. They also export into the phoropter and or the tablet that you're controlling the phoropter with. So it's with a click of a button, I can show patients, click, here's what's in your glasses, click, here's the auto refraction, and I can do a refraction, and then click, go back and forth and back and forth. And so a lot of times people will call, they'll call kind of the money shot, and that is when you show them the difference between here's your glasses, press a button, now here's what we found today. And it makes it so easy to show the difference, and it's probably one of the best ways to really educate a patient on why it's important to get a new pair of glasses. Now, the thing that's great about all of these, and in particular the lens analyzer and the anterior segment analyzer, is they give very consistent measurements regardless of the operator. You know, I could bring either one of my teenage sons in here and have them doing quality autorefractions tomorrow, quality lensometry tomorrow. It takes very little training. And that's just because of the ease of use of the instruments and, quite frankly, their accuracy. So it's really nice. And, you know, if your practice is like mine, staff turnover has really been an issue. And so it's nice to have some of the key components of our exam that it's easy to show people how to use, and it doesn't take them very long to get up and running. Now, these things also improve documentation, because when you capture the data, it can go straight into your EHR, and it takes very little actual manual input. So really every step along the way, these instruments are taking essentially steps out of things you would otherwise have to do. And because of this, I think it really enhances the overall patient experience. Patients love all of these. And, you know, it's pretty rare that I'm sitting in front of the lens analyzer with the patient or the anterior segment analyzer doing the autorefraction, but I hear it from down the hall. I hear people saying things. Patients are impressed, and they see these things as being super high tech, which really they are. And oftentimes, especially if they're new to the practice, they really appreciate it because they've oftentimes never seen anything quite like it before. And because of that, it really helps the workflow, because when it's so easy to do these things, it just the time is used so much more efficiently other ways than having to deal with manual lensometry with the patient's glasses, or an autorefractor that doesn't always work, or that has manual aspects to it. This is an autorefractor that you get it close to lined up, you press one button that says go, and it does everything for you. So really, really helpful. And all of these instruments have a relatively small footprint. The lens analyzer is no bigger than a traditional lensometer. The anterior segment analyzer is no bigger than a traditional autorefractor that only does autorefraction and Ks. And the phoropter goes on, just, you know, goes on the arm on your stand, just like any other phoropter. So these are all very easy logistically to integrate into your office. So here we see the lens analyzer, and you kind of see what the output of it kind of shows you. What's great is it gives consistent, repeatable lensometry readings, again, regardless of who measured the glasses. It's just press a button and, or, you know, a little spot on the screen and go. It's great. It moves on its own. It does everything on its own, measures both eyes. And as you can see on the image there, it gives you sphere cylinder axis add. And then it kind of shows you what the progressive in this case looks like. Looks like there's a pretty thin channel on that progressive. So that may be someone that's coming to your office and has complaints of, hey, my glasses don't work real well on the computer. And you can show them this, and you can show them, well, look how narrow this channel is that you're having to use for all your intermediate work. Wouldn't it be great if we can get you some progressive lenses that would work a little bit better, that have a wider channel there? And it really makes it to where progressive lenses sell themselves. It makes it so easy. This patient doesn't have any prism, but if they did, this instrument's able to measure. And that's one of the things that we find, that even opticians with some experience have a really hard time measuring prism. And so this takes all the worry out of that and makes that super easy. And so because of all those things, it really does make a meaningful improvement to practice flow. For me, by the way, probably the biggest differentiator with this, and what really helps, is when patients are complaining of blur in their vision, or my lenses aren't working well, and you refract them and you get the same thing that's in their lenses from a power perspective. When I look at the image there that's on the top of the little screen there of the lens meter that shows you that channel in the progressive, that's what makes it easy, because we've all had that patient where they come in for an RX check for a pair of lenses they bought elsewhere, and the lenses are the right power, but there's something wrong. And that's a difficult concept to explain to a patient trying to describe lens design or base curve, or things like that we understand, but our patients don't. Why would they? Well, here, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and it makes it really easy to be able to describe that to them. And so that, to me, is the most beneficial / useful part of this, is really helping me to educate my patients, especially when there's a progressive issue. And it's really saved me a lot of times. And that's why it helps with troubleshooting lens issues. All right, so here we see one of the readout screens from the autorefractor. So it's either a VX120 or VX130. The 130 has more corneal mapping capabilities. It's kind of like as if you had a pentacam. But what we see here on the top is we see the patient's autorefraction in photopic and scotopic conditions, which can be really useful, because do you ever have patients that say, wow, my glasses work great during the day, but once it's dark out, I don't see as well. Well, in this patient, you can see that in photopic, their pupil size was about 3.2, and scotopic was only 3.3, so not much difference and no real difference in refraction. But sometimes I'll see half or 3/4 a diopter or spherical difference here between the photopic and scotopic. It can be quite noticeable, and again, helpful in getting a patient to understand, I'm not just trying to sell you a second pair of glasses to make money. I think you need a second pair of glasses because of what this instrument is telling me how you see depending on the lighting. So what we also see here are the K measurements. We have central corneal thickness. That's just what we have set up on this particular view. What I'll tell you is the data is accurate and consistent. I spend so much less time refracting with this autorefractor than I ever have before. And I'm sure there's other autorefractors that do a fine job, but I just happen to have a lot of experience with this one for the last, probably 5-6 years, and I just love it. I love how accurate it is. It makes it so much easier to refract. And the thing that probably impresses me the most about it is with my high cylinder patients. We're all gonna have patients that accommodate when we do autorefraction, no matter what you do. But and that's pretty easy to figure out and to get right. But the patients that can sometimes be a little bit more difficult are high cylinder patients. And man, with this autorefractor, it is so accurate, not just on the cylinder, but on the axis. It's rare that the axis is off more than just a couple degrees. And those are patients where if it is off more, if it's high cylinder and it's off more than a couple degrees, you start your refraction and they're 20/40, 20/50. And what I'll tell you is when I start my refraction, it's pretty rare for my patient not to be 20/20 or 20/25. I am truly just fine tuning. And so really what this does is it really allows me to get a better and really excellent overall visual assessment based on the data that this gathers. What it gathers is actually potentially 26 different diagnostics in 90 seconds, and that's both eyes total. So press it, get it close to lined up, press one button, 90 seconds later, done. By the way, what's my tech doing during the 90 seconds? Well, they're either starting to fill in some charting or they're doing the lensometry that's sitting, I'll show you a picture, that's the lensometer, the lens analyzer sits right next to the autorefractor in our practice. So while they're being auto-refracted, they just swivel over, put the glasses on the lensometer, it reads it, everything is just quick, easy, and efficient. And one of the doctors in my practice is a cornea specialist, gets referrals from all over the city and really beyond. And with the VX130, we have that instead of a pentacam. So it's used every day, and it's used all the time by the cornea specialist to make decisions that he needs to make regarding really complicated cornea patients, whether it's corneal dystrophies, whether it's endothelial disease, whether it's keratoconus, whatever it is. It's really his workhorse instrument. One of the other things that it does is it will show my patient, what does your vision look like without any correction? And so on the left there, and it also helps parents to understand what their kids are seeing. So on the left, we see what the vision is uncorrected. So that's no correction. Then on the right here, we see with lower order aberration, so refraction, corrected vision. And it's something that's really helpful for letting people understand subtle differences. So low prescriptions, we're able to show them, hey, this is kind of what it looks like to you, and this is what it could be looking like. And again, it really helps explain, because sometimes, we're telling patients about changes and new glasses, and, our patients are sometimes a little skeptical. Do I really need those new glasses? Are they just trying to sell me something? Well, no, you really do need them, or you really could benefit from them. Let me show you how. Don't take my word for it. Let me show it to you very analytically. And it really helps to do that. And again, it also helps to show the day versus nighttime prescriptions and the benefit that they will provide your patient. So this is something else that we use fairly commonly to, again, really help educate our patients and allow them to make better decisions. So here you see the picture of me doing, excuse me, a refraction. And I really do that. I really do sometimes prop my feet up, because patients don't know what you're doing when they're looking through a phoropter. They can't see you. So why not be comfortable? And so it is so much more relaxing to be doing this when you're refracting a patient than being hunched over and reaching up for the phoropter and physically spinning the dials. Man, this is so much easier. It is more comfortable. It's more relaxing for me. And quite frankly, patients enjoy it more, because they hear the little clicks of the lens moving, and it's all happening digitally, and they're impressed. And you may not be doing any better of a refraction. You're probably a very good refractor with a traditional manual phoropter, but your patients think that it's better when you're using this. So yeah, they really are impressed. And that perception that they have, them being really impressed, has really kind of elevated their view of the practice. They think it's a much higher tech practice, just because of higher refracting. And again, it's comfortable to be doing my refraction. Have the refraction being performed in the palm of my hand. You see, I'm just holding that tablet, excuse me, and that's how I'm controlling everything for the refraction. It's so much easier on my shoulders and my back, because I'm not bending over. I'm sitting back. I'm making myself comfortable. We always tell our patients, have a seat, make yourself comfortable, or something like that. Well, whoever tells us, make ourselves comfortable. And so this really creates the opportunity to be able to do that. So I use a specific chart when I'm using the digital phoropter. Again, that's all controlled from the tablet. There's a variety of different testing options and distance ranges. We can change contrast. We can use regular letters. We can do tumbling E's, pictures. We can do clock dial. We can do red-green testing. We can do our Fourier testing. We can do virtually any testing. It's available in a number of different languages. Now that's something that really impresses patients. When I bring them into the room and I use a different language of chart, that's something that kind of blows them away. The example I'll give you is that the original company that manufactured this was in Israel. So one of the languages that came on the instrument was Hebrew. And so it doesn't happen very often, but occasionally if I have a patient that I know speaks Hebrew, I'll make sure they're in the room that has the setup, and man, are they impressed that we have Hebrew. So really fun to just little things like that. And again, it's all integrated in the tablet. I control the chart. I control the phoropter from the same tablet. Everything's right there in the palm of my hand. Now, when I'm doing the refraction, I can have the tablet look like either one of these two views. So the one on the left is kind of a traditional phoropter, where it shows you in the blue and the green. The blue is blue and green are areas that we can either spin or tap to make a change. So it's the same spots like on your phoropter that you would be using, but again, it's on the tablet. So I can do it in a traditional phoropter view, or on the right-hand side, you see there, it's a more kind of, I guess what I would say, digital, or maybe you'd say analog view, where you're just tapping the plus and minus sign on the bottom by quarter, half, or full diopter, and changing either the sphere, cylinder, or axis, depending on what you want to be doing there. So multiple different views and ways that we can be doing the refraction. By the way, you'll see on the right-hand side of each of those, upper right-hand side, you've got the chart, so you don't have to be turning around back and forth to know what's on the chart. It's in the palm of your hands. Right below that are different configurations for the chart, so I'm controlling my visual acuity chart right there in my hands. So what size letters, what line, do I want vertical, horizontal, do I want them getting smaller as we go down? And then on the bottom there, you see some of the different tests or different things we can do with the chart. So much in the palm of your hand. It really sounds kind of cliche, but in this case, like in many others, it's really, really true. So the other thing that I would point out that kind of completes my refraction suite or my exam room is the slit lamp that I use. And, I for a while, I had told Visionix, the company that manufactures these instruments, that their best or maybe worst kept secret, best because they keep it a secret, worst because it's not a secret you want to keep, are their slit lamps. So we have Visionix slit lamps in our exam rooms. The optics are amazing. So remember, I told you I work with ophthalmologists, and ophthalmologists historically are quite keen on Hogstrite slit lamps. Hogstrite slit lamps are great, but they're really expensive. And so in the office that I'm actually sitting in right now, we had one room with a fairly high-end Hogstrite LED illuminated slit lamp. We had 3, I think they were Topcon or some other brand, and we had one of the Visionix slit lamps. And it didn't take long until all of a sudden the ophthalmologist was saying, hey, how come you got that slit lamp in your room? We want one of those. And we actually traded out, and now all 5 rooms in this office have this Visionix slit lamp. The illumination is uniform and fantastic. The built-in filters, just like many other slit lamps, are so easy to use, but to me, it's the optics that set it apart. So the optics are amazing. Again, when compared to Hogstrite, the doctors that I work with wanted to, and we did, get rid of all of our other slit lamps in this office so that we could have these Visionix slit lamps. So they're really, really nice slit lamps. And that's something that I think is really super, super important. And they're also quite affordable. So you're getting the incredible quality without paying the incredibly high price. So, here's an image of, I told you earlier, what happens when a patient is being autorefracted. So there you see the patient sitting in front of the autorefractor or the anterior segment analyzer, and the technician standing not in front of the patient, not just watching them be autorefracted or twiddling their thumbs, but over at the lens meter. And the glasses are in the lens meter being analyzed. And I told you that the anterior segment analyzer or lensometer autorefractor takes about 90 seconds. Sometimes it's less. It depends on how many of the different measurements we want to get. So typically we don't do the NCT. It can, but typically we don't. So it's not 90 seconds. And so it's probably closer to 60 seconds. But that gives plenty of time for, after the technician presses a button go, to just swivel to the side, use the lens meter, analyze the glasses, have the image up there to show the patient if needed. It's all happening at once. So again, I'll come back to my word efficiency, really creates efficiency. Now, by the way, here's some of the other analytics that we get from the anterior segment analyzer. So what we're looking at here is a number of different things. So number one, we have pachymetry. So the numbers were in the center there. You see it says 516, and it's going down to 486. if we're going on the right-hand side there. So we see the pachymetry. The line that you see on the top, the blue line, that's showing the white to white. We also see the arrows are pointing to the anterior chamber angle. So we get some measurement of that as well. So on the left side of the image there, you see it's 19 degrees and 16 on the right. Now, I don't use this instead of gonioscopy, but it's a way to be able to measure. It's another metric, it's another measurement. If you do gonioscopy and you're not sure, or you could even give your text a number and say, hey, if this number is under, then don't dilate. And then in the very middle, we see the distance from the cornea to the anterior surface of the lens. So now you have an autorefractor that's helping you with glaucoma. And so again, this is the glaucoma screen, or the screening data points that we use in our glaucoma patients. And then the other one that's not shown here is it also does non-contact tonometry. So we see the different pachymetry measurements here. And it will also do compensated tonometry based on, so it measures the pressure, the tonometry, but then it knows the pachymetry, so it compensates for that. So really going the extra step. And as I already pointed out, it gives us angle measurements as well. And I also pointed out the white to white measurements. A lot of times people use views like this, and especially those white to white measurements when they're fitting scleral lenses. And so again, the more metrics we have, the more data we have, the easier it makes it to be more efficient in doing our job, whether it's glaucoma, refraction, scleral lenses, anything like that. So here's a look at some of the corneal diagnostics. So this is a screenshot of the topography measurement screen or summary screen. So again, on the top, we see the autorefraction, and I apologize, it is a little bit blurry here. But what we see are the K measurements, the amount of cylinder, the average K. The one on the right, it sure looks like we see an inferior nasal cone, doesn't it? One of the numbers that's in red that we don't see there is the keratoconus index, where basically it flags patients that it feels are at risk of having keratoconus. And so it's really, really great measurements, and it really calls your attention to it. You're able to adjust the colors that are used so that you can have a wider or smaller range depending on what your patient's cornea looks like to really be more specific and accurate. All right, so this is another one. It helps you see cataracts. So, when it's doing the autorefraction, the light's low enough, patient's pupil dilates a little bit, at least when we're doing the scotopic measurement, but it also uses this retroillumination to be able to show you lenticular opacities. And so sometimes these are pretty dense, and it really lets you know that, yeah, there is a cataract there. And I think that kind of helps us sometimes know how much time am I going to spend doing a refraction. And if there's a whole bunch of opacities there, and again, you can see on the bottom of that screen, we're looking at the opacity map. If there's a bunch of opacities, then we know we're not going to get a patient to a crisp 20/20. So the way that we refract is likely going to be a little bit different. It'll also show if you got a dislocated or tilted IOL or rotation. So it gives us great lenticular information. Again, whether it's our patient's own lens or if they're pseudophakic and they have an intraocular implant. All right, so I've mentioned a bunch of different numbers for devices and what things are. So for the anterior segment analyzer, there's a number of different units available, and you can see on the screen here, some of them do different things. So there's certain things that all of them do, like the retroillumination for the opacities that I showed you, corneal aberrometry, corneal topography with a placido ring, fully automatic measurements, the Shack-Hartman wavefront technology, autorefraction case. They all do that. But then some of the instruments add on the things like anterior chamber analysis, pachymetry, Scheimpflug imaging, and the NCT. So the instruments that we have in both offices do all that, along with doing the anterior and posterior corneal tomography. That's what, again, the corneal specialist that's in our practice uses that instead of using a pentacam. A lot of times Pentacam is really, and the reason I bring it up is Pentacam is oftentimes looked at as kind of the standard of care for corneal measurements, for anterior, posterior corneal measurements. But again, we don't have one. We use a VX130. And then there's also a VX120 Plus dry eye that has a dry eye module. And there's also the VX650 that has fundus camera in it. So then you really got really all in one. It's front to back, everything with a simple push of a button. Makes it really easy. So some key benefits of optimizing my practice with new technologies. So how has it changed my practice? I really like this picture. That's why I'm showing it again. So again, it's made refracting more fun. And part of the reason why it's more fun is it's so much more comfortable. And it's comfortable in a number of ways. Number one, just actual comfort. But I'm also really comfortable relying on the autorefractor data that always makes my refraction much more quick and easy. I use a retinoscope a lot less because autorefraction is so accurate. It doesn't matter if it's a young patient, an old patient. If they, really you could, pretty much any question you would ask, hey, does this work with? For the most part, I would tell you the answer is yes. And at the very least, it works better than other autorefractors I've used in the past. I mentioned earlier, I really like refracting from a tablet. It's just physically, ergonomically comfortable. And so it sounds silly, but it's more fun. I would tell you that a big change is I think because of the autorefraction and using the tablet and not reaching and all that, I think I spend half as much time refracting, and I think my results are better. So to me, that is the definition of efficiency, spending less time to get the same or better results. So it's just really, really super easy and kind of fun to make, or fun to use. And I worry a lot less about making mistakes with my refraction. And it also allows me to be more reliant on others, because I know whether it's me or one of the technicians refracting, that we all find it pretty easy to use and get really, really great results. And knowing that I get more information than instruments I've used in the past. I never had those opacity maps. I've never had access to as much anterior and posterior corneal information. To have all that, to be able to, do I use it in every patient? No, I don't. But it's really easy to go over to the instrument if I want to dig something up, or go through our EHR to look at something. There's so much information at my fingertips. What does the staff say? They love easy to use technology. Press a button and go. So it's so easy to use that staff really like it. As I mentioned earlier, it requires quite a bit less training to be able to use it, which is also good because it allows staff to feel independent. Not just, we're happy when our staff is independent. They like it when they can feel independent. And so we get both of those. And it allows our staff to be effective in multitasking. While one instrument's going, they're using another. It just really, really helps out. Now, interestingly, we've had some really good patient reviews. And, oftentimes patients remark in the office, but also sometimes they remark through reviews that they have really great experiences, that they're impressed with the modern technology, which is kind of cool when people see that and notice it and then want to tell others about it. And then, it just I think really helps because our patients appreciate that efficiency. The other thing is, I mentioned earlier that it allows me to spend more time face-to-face talking to patients, and that's something that people just really appreciate. Just a little bit of extra face-to-face time with the patient will give you, just give you so much benefit. They think that it's so much more time when you're sitting there face-to-face rather than they're behind a phoropter, you're hidden behind something else. So it just completely changes patient perception in a truly positive way. And I think that's kind of the takeaway that I want to give you about using this type of technology for efficiency is not only does it change the way that I practice and that I enjoy it, but I really think it changes patient experiences and they enjoy it. They like the efficiency, they like the cool quote unquote new stuff. And I would tell you it's really a win-win for everybody involved. So that's what I had prepared. My plan was to go right about 40 minutes and then allow for some questions. And I think we're right about at that 40-minute mark. So Adam, let's go through any questions that have come in.
All right, cool. Thank you, Jeff. Now let me pull up these questions here. So remember, if anybody has a question, there's a little box you can see on the right side of your screen. Just type a question right in there and we will get down to it. So let me pull up these little questions here and see what we can do. And okay, first question here, I guess is a very specific question.
Yeah.
Does the VX40 progressive map transfer to the tablet, or do you have to move the patient to the VX40 to show them the narrow corridor?
Yeah, so it does not transfer to the tablet. Usually what our staff does is, so all of our EHR is electronic. We use iPads. So when they capture that, they'll take a picture of it. And so we manually, I guess, put it into our EHR. So that's an extra step, but it's super easy. And I would tell you that pays off as much or more than anything else that you'll do.
Right. Question here. So an interesting one. You mentioned earlier that you can actually teach a teenager how to do this. Relatively straightforward with the autorefractor. The question is, how long does it actually take to train someone, and what are the pitfalls that you found in training? Are there any sort of gotchas or recommendations when you're training someone?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, it's not exaggerating to say that I could teach either of my teenage sons. So one's 13 and one's 19, and the 19-year-old has worked for us before. But I could take either one of them, and when it comes to using the autorefractor or the lensometer, I think within 10 minutes they're ready to go. And that's truly not an exaggeration. It is just that easy. I would tell you that using the digital phoropter, I would say it probably takes about the same amount of training to make someone familiar with it as it would a manual phoropter. So our technicians all learn to refract on a manual phoropter, but most of them make a pretty easy jump onto the digital one because if they like using I showed you the two different modes that you can use it in. If they want the mode where it looks like a traditional phoropter, they can use that, or if they want to just use kind of the plus minus buttons, for some of them that makes it much easier. So it's pretty easy. What are the pitfalls? Yeah, to be honest, I don't know that there are. One pitfall might be that when you're doing the autorefraction, it potentially gives so much information. What becomes important is that we have it programmed to show us the right results, so that it's showing what we want. But quite frankly, that's about it. It's training wise, it's really pretty easy.
Right. Interesting question here. I guess I never considered it. So the interface is tablet-based that you were showing off. How many tablets do you actually have? Do you keep one for each lane, or does the doctor carry the tablet with them as they're going around? How does that work?
Yeah, good question. I don't know if you could carry it around. We keep the tablet in the lane. So in the lane that I'm in right now, there's the phoropter / chart tablet. And then I'll have when I'm with patients, I'll have my iPad that I carry around from room to room. So, I think of the tablet as an extension of the phoropter. And so I don't carry around a phoropter, so I also don't carry around the tablet that goes with it.
Right. I guess a related follow-up question here, does the tablet ever die just because you've had a long day? And if so, do you keep extras around the office?
Good question. So, to be honest with you, we keep the tablet just plugged in in order just to avoid that. So at the desk that I'm sitting at right now, right in front of me is an outlet, and one of them it's permanently, one of the two outlets is permanently occupied by the cord for the tablet. So I've never had it die because it's plugged in. Just like anything else, it's possible that things can go wrong with electronics. Luckily, I shouldn't hear me. They're knock on wood. I haven't had that happen yet. But I would tell you that that's probably one of the pitfalls that you could have when using a digital phoropter. I will tell you we've got a spare manual phoropter, so the one we used to use. that if a digital phoropter goes down, we can quite easily take it off the arm, put the manual on, and we're up and running in 3-4 minutes. So that is a potential pitfall. And so what I would tell you is, if you had an office where you had 5 of these digital phoropters, I think it's important to have at least one manual phoropter just in case. That's but that's no different than if you're on electronic medical records. You're going to still have paper around just in case you need to use it.
Right. And I think it's important to point out as well, those tablets that you're actually using, those are pretty standard tablets, right? They're made by Apple or Samsung or whatever.
Yeah. It's an Android, and it's a completely standard tablet that just has an app on it, and you use the app for all the functionality. So yeah, it could be any tablet.
Right, so it's not a proprietary thing. So if let's say it died, you don't have to wait, a long time to get it serviced or whatever else. Like these are, they're leveraging, what Samsung or whatever has actually built with their tablets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for pointing that out, Adam.
Cool. So another question here. Oh, it looks like a pricing question. So
yeah. So here's the standard answer for a pricing question. Don't ask me. So what I would tell you is, reach out. You can contact someone at Visionix. And so, on the bottom of the slide here, you see for a demo, you can reach out to visionix.com/US/ODwire. So you can either arrange a demo or just reach out and ask somebody questions for the different devices. So it's a tricky question because there's so many different devices, and some of them have different levels that even if I knew what I paid exactly, I wouldn't want to offer that because every instrument could be just slightly different. So I would encourage you to reach out to a Visionix rep regarding that.
Right. Here's a sort of follow-up question. I don't know if you can answer this. In terms of the structure of how you pay for this stuff, are there service contracts so that the device is continually updated? How does that work?
That's a good question. And to be quite frank, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know. So I apologize just for my ignorance on that, my lack of knowledge. I would encourage you to reach out to Visionix and find out. That brings up another question about serviceability and what have the issues been. The slit lamps, we've had no issues. With the digital phoropter, like I said, I think we've had it 5 or 6 years, and I don't know that we've had any issues with it. I don't believe we've had to have that serviced. There's been a couple times where we lose connection, and so I actually had to get someone on the line from Visionix to troubleshoot with us. How do we get our tablet connected to the autorefractor, connected to the phoropter, to the chart? Occasionally there's a little glitch in that. It's usually the autorefractor coming into the tablet, and it's not the actual phoropter. Our autorefractor in the 5 or 6 years we've had, I think we've needed service twice for relatively, actually, so one of them was we needed service just over the phone for how to download some of the data off of it because we use it so much that we filled the hard drive, and so that was just phone support, which was great. And then I believe we may have had one issue other than that, but service-wise, things have really been pretty good.
Right, and in fact, these things are obviously web addressable, right? So if you're having service problems, they can actually access the devices at Visionix. They can do it themselves to help you out.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
So it's pretty neat. And again, if you have questions about pricing or how it all works, or you want the demo, please go to that page that you see up on the screen. And/or I'll actually, if you ask questions here, I'll take them aside and I'll pass them along to the folks at Visionix as well, so they can get back to you directly. So. Because it is a little bit difficult to answer questions like that because the system is, it does have a lot of parts. The other question I had for you though, just looking at all these parts and how it all works, do you know when you got set up originally, did somebody come on site to do it, or did you guys actually like set up the hardware yourself and then just get trained over the internet?
Yeah, so when we first started, we had someone come out and help set it up and do some training. And to be honest, the one part that took a little training was the refracting from the tablet. And that's just because that was something I wasn't used to.
Right.
But yeah, someone came out, set it up, and the training was pretty brief. But then, because that's all that was needed, but they also gave us a phone number that, hey, if you need phone support after we leave, here's who you call, and they'll walk you through anything. And so, we've used that a few times, but it's pretty easy setup.
Great. Okay, so let me run down some more questions here. Yeah, people have some good ones for sure today. Yeah. Another question is, does the demo, and again, I know that you probably can't answer this because you probably haven't seen the demo online. Does the demo step you through all the different functions of the devices online? I.e., when I look at my screen, is it just like what I'd be seeing if I were using the tablet in real life? So any Visionix folks out there want to answer that?
Yeah, I can get that one.
I can answer that one. The virtual demo, you will see exactly what you would see on the tablet. So we share the screen actually through TeamViewer, the same thing we log in if you need any service or if you have an updated software that needs to be done, we log in through TeamViewer. So we show you the same thing. So it would look exactly like the tablet would look or the screens on the Visionix screener.
One of the other things I would tell you could reference is, I think it was last year at Vision Expo West, I spent some time and was videoed. So I don't know if it's still on the Visionix website or if it's somewhere on YouTube, but I was videoed using some of the different instruments and just clicking through and showing how easy it is to use. I'm certainly not the most tech savvy person. So if you can take someone like me and make it easy to click through something, it really shows just how easy it can be.
Right. Excellent. And I guess while we have you here, so this TeamViewer software, for people who are unfamiliar, this is remote control software, correct?
That is correct, yes. And TeamViewer, you would have to purchase a license through them. But if you wanted to purchase the TeamViewer license, we'll help set it up where you can get into your own device too. So if you had to do it remotely, you could remotely do your refraction from your office or your home.
Right. Excellent. Yes, and in fact, I use it to do tech support for my extended family around the planet.
How cool
so it does work.
How cool would it be, by the way, that to be doing remote exams where a patient's in the chair, you're sitting at home and you're doing their refraction through a digital phoropter with TeamViewer. I mean, to me, that would be pretty awesome. And I know there's people that do that they do their refractions from home and have techs take pictures with a slit lamp camera, so they're not actually even there to see the patient. And it's technology like this that makes that possible.
Right. I believe during COVID, this was sort of a trend that people tried, right, to try to protect the doctor and let them, look at as many cases as possible.
Yes.
So they were actually able to implement that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that people still do. So this is just, one of the ways that you can make that something that you could potentially implement.
Yep. Great. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for doing this tonight. And thank you everyone for showing up. And again, if you have any more questions, feel free to follow up with me or go to that virtual demo page, visionix.com/us/ODwire. You'll get a follow-up email from me in a couple days. And again, if you reply to that message, I'll get it directly. So feel free to reach out and talk to me if you need to. So Jeff, again, thank you so much for doing this tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun. Hopefully people took away some good information, and happy to answer questions for anybody anytime.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And I guess I'll be seeing everyone online. Good night, everyone.
Good night.